Woke up with your name on my screen again. 3 a.m., guess I ain't sleeping then. You say hope you're good, I hit you back slow, but I know you just wanna see if I'm low. Whiskey in a solo, ash on the dash, still riding past the place we crashed. Yeah, you left like smoke in the wind, and I still ain't sure where we end. I've been running from the silence, turn my heartbreak into mileage, but I still hear your voice in the static. Girl, we were magic, now it's just habit. We were burning like a black road flame. Now I'm out here missing your name. Got a full tank and a hard hat road, trying to outrun what hurts the most. You were heading till you slammed the door. Now I'm speeding toward, what was it for? Yeah, I keep running, but I just crashed. Guess I'm headed nowhere, nowhere fast. You're out in LA with a brand new view, but every skyline just feels less you. I'm stuck in a bar in this one light town, trying to find the high that you tore down. All my boys say she ain't worth it, but every song still makes it hurt worse. I get paid just if it broke, spending my nights on things I don't show. We were burning like a back road flame. Now I'm out here missing your name. Got a full tank and a hard hat road, trying to outrun what hurts the most. You were heading till you slammed the door. Now I'm speeding toward, what was it for? Yeah, I keep running, but I just crashed. Guess I'm headed nowhere, nowhere fast. These songs, these shows, for one more night back in your clothes, but you're a ghost now in my past, and I'm just chasing things that don't last. We were burning like a back road flame. Now I'm out here drowning in pain. Got a new girl, but it don't feel right. She don't know she's just a fight with the night. You were heading till you slammed the door. Now I'm speeding toward, what was it for? Yeah, I keep running, but I just crashed. Guess I'm headed nowhere, nowhere fast.
the most trusted name in automotive and proudly supporting Newfoundland and Labrador for 120 years. Choose Hickman for your next gasoline, diesel, or electric vehicle. Family drives everything. NL Kubota has Kubota attachments and Toro snowblowers in stock now. Visit 15 Mills Way in St. John's or 70 Row Avenue in Gander. Alpha Supplements, your local one-stop shop for all things health and fitness, with 2 locations in St. John's and Mount Pearl. All right, good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Let's see. Like between Facebook and YouTube, almost 7,000 people watching right now. 6559 is what the software is telling me. Facebook is also telling me my resolution is too high, so if folks are having an issue on Facebook, you can flip over to YouTube. I have it there too. So what's happening? Well, what's happening? Well, we are looking at another major winter storm moving in. And we've talked about this so many times this winter. We just had one that rolled through Labrador, parts of western Newfoundland. Last week, parts of central northeastern picked up close to 50 centimeters or more. And now it looks like it's eastern Newfoundland's turn to see a very significant snowfall. And it does look like the highest amounts are going to be somewhere between the Avalon Peninsula and the northeast coast. And for you folks in Gander and Central who have a ton of snow, you are going to see more snow from this. And I do suspect the totals are going to be on the significant side. So here's what we're going to do. It's 9:30. It's late. I meant to do this a bit earlier. I got hung up with a few things. So here's the deal. We're going to do this. I'm going to take questions, and then I'm going to say goodnight, and I'll be up really early tomorrow morning covering this. We'll do more forecast coverage, more live coverage throughout the day tomorrow. So we can look forward to that. I'm kind of excited to see how this one does transpire, as it's a bigger storm, and I think a lot of stuff is going to be closed tomorrow, unless the forecast is horribly wrong, which doesn't appear to be the case. So what we're looking at now is satellite and radar imagery, and our area of low pressure is still really pretty far down to the south. And if I bring up windy, we can flip between a few things here back and forth, but if I bring up windy, this is not my map, but it does give you a real good idea of where our area of low pressure is. And it's, still to the, southwest of western Nova Scotia, but it's moving toward the northeast. It's a very large area of low pressure, and it is rolling on in as we speak here this evening. And so even though we can't see it as clearly on this map, what we can see on this map is the snow moving into Nova Scotia, and we are also seeing the snow right now showing up over southern areas of Newfoundland, and that is only going to continue as the evening and overnight does progress. So we are seeing heavy snow in areas of Nova Scotia right now, pushing on shore into the Halifax, looks like just into Halifax HRM area, but looks like the heaviest snow is kind of north of there, working towards North Sydney and Cape Breton Island, Cape Breton Highlands area. And then looking closer to Newfoundland, we flip over to the live radar sweep, and we can see the light snow has arrived for areas of the Avalon Northeast, Avalon North, Burin Peninsula. Most of that likely isn't reaching the ground. So something of note, a lot of that probably isn't reaching the ground. This stuff down here where it's darker blue, that likely is reaching the ground, and that is something we're going to see just become more widespread as the evening does progress. And we can see this all lifting north, and that's going to continue to be the case as we roll into the evening. If we bring on the temperatures, what you will see is it's relatively, I'll say mild, because it's not mild, but it's not super cold. So we're looking at like temperatures generally right around -3 for the Northeast Avalon. Greats Cove is -3, looking at -5 in Terra Nova, -1 in the Burin Peninsula, -3. Looks like that's Sagona Island. So it's cold, right? But it's not like super cold. So the snow that we see is likely going to be a little more wet than the last couple of rounds that we have seen, at least for southeastern Newfoundland. And so what are we going to see as we go through tonight? Well, we're going to watch this area of low pressure rapidly. Well, it's not. It's actually already kind of intensified. It's going to hit peak intensity before I think it reaches Newfoundland. But the thing is it's really slowing down as it reaches us and essentially goes past us during the day tomorrow. And with that happening, when the lows move real slow, they have a tendency to potentially drop a lot of precipitation. In this case, it's going to be snow. On the other side of the coin, we're going to watch this area of high pressure build in behind the low, and that's going to really tighten up the pressure gradient tomorrow, which means wind. And we're going to see that wind really beginning to increase as we go through the second half of the day tomorrow. So ahead of this environment, Canada has issued a few different alerts, but we're looking at orange and yellow level winter storm warnings for about the eastern half of Newfoundland, which go into effect tonight. In some areas, they will not end until Tuesday morning. Clarenville, Burin Peninsula, Avalon Peninsula in the orange level warning, meaning it's going to be a more impactful storm for this area compared to areas off to the north and the west. On top of that, we're also looking at a yellow level blowing snow advisory for Burgeo-Remy area for blowing snow, mainly during the day tomorrow night. And the other thing to note is that we are going to see potentially some significant coastal flooding from a combination of high waves and storm surge, basically from Cape Friels all the way around to St. Mary's Bay, and then potentially into Placentia Bay, around the Burin Peninsula, and along the south coast as far west as Port aux Basques. And that's going to be with all the high tide cycles as we go through tomorrow into Tuesday. So keep that in mind if you do have something, if you have some infrastructure that is potentially at danger of inundation from high water levels. So something to kind of keep an eye on over the next 2 days, I should say, really next few high tide cycles is what I'm trying to get at here. And I'm also stalling because I'm throwing a graphic into my weather system that I kind of want to say I forgot to add, but I might have forgotten to add. Let's see. I just had something beeped at me. I want to make sure. I don't know what that noise was. Okay. Something beeped me. Don't know what it was. But anyway, we're going to keep going and see how things go. Oops. That's not what I want to show you. No, that's not what I want to show you either. This is what I want to show you. I mean, I want to show you that, but I don't want to show you what I was just showing you. My bad on that one. Is there anything? So, okay. All right. So now that we're here, can I sing Rattling Bog? I'll get to the comments here in a little bit. So with respect to timing, right? This is the other thing we need to be aware of is what's the timing of this look like? So the snow is, basically moving in now, right? And as we get into midnight, we're going to see that snow just about arriving in the St. John's area. But at that point, it's snowing on the Burin Peninsula, it's snowing in Harbor Breton, it's snowing in Canagra, it's snowing just east of Ramia. And that snow is only going to lift north and rapidly by tomorrow morning. So when you wake up tomorrow morning at 6 a.m., it's going to be snowing heavy. And I'm talking heavy on the Avalon, Burin Peninsulas in areas of eastern and northeastern Newfoundland from like the Bonavista Peninsula kind of on a line down toward like Fortune Bay. We're looking at snowfall rates in this time of like 3 to 6 centimeters an hour. On top of that, it's going to be windy. Not as windy as it's going to be, but it's going to be windy. And so it's going to be pretty gnarly when we wake up tomorrow morning. It's going to continue to snow through much of the day for like central Newfoundland, parts of the west coast, parts of the south coast, parts of the Burin Peninsula, and the Avalon, and that northeast coast. Now, a lot of folks are wondering if we should wait to shovel the snow, or maybe there's a bit of a break. I would reckon that if you're on the Avalon and you want to do like an early round snow clearing around noon, and I'll have shovel alerts going out in the app, is probably going to be our best time because It looks like at that point the heaviest snow pushes back toward like the Bonavista Peninsula, Bonavista Bay area, back closer to Gander, and almost toward the Burin Peninsula. We're also potentially looking at a break for the southeast and southern Avalon, or maybe even some rain or freezing rain. Now, this purple is ice pellet. The pink is freezing rain, and the green is rain. Now, earlier in the week, it looked like this line was going to be a bit further north, but the last few computer model runs have kept the cold air over the northeast Avalon, Avalon North. So it does look like the southern shore should kind of be the dividing line between where we see ice pellets and freezing rain and where we don't. How far north that goes is the question. Now, could we see ice pellets mixing in St. John's tomorrow? Sure. If this goes a little further northwest than I think it's going to, we might even get some freezing drizzle for a little bit in the afternoon. But, here's the rub. Once we get through noon, this whole area of snow is going to push back down this way. And this is why we're looking at the potential for such high amounts, because it's going to snow for a very long period of time. Recall I've been talking about the slow movement of this low. So watch what happens. By 5, 6 o'clock, that snow builds right back onto the Avalon, except the extreme southern Avalon. Bonavista Peninsula, Bonavista Bay, Gander, Grand Falls, Windsor, back almost as far as the west coast, Buckens, Millertown, we are still seeing snow tomorrow evening. Look at midnight tomorrow night. It's ended for Gander. It's ended for northeastern Newfoundland. It's still going for the Bonavista Peninsula and much of the Avalon at midnight. And that area of snow is going to move that way as we go into the overnight. So it's going to be last to end in the metro area on the southern shore. And that will happen, looks like, by 5, 6 a.m. Tuesday morning. So we're looking at more than 24 hours of snow. And so what does this look like if we're looking at like almost like a hazard perspective, right? When is the worst of this going to be? So if you're in the metro area, the worst of it's going to be from like 4 or 5 in the morning through about midday tomorrow. That's when we're looking at those snowfall rates of 2 to 5 centimeters per hour. And this goes for more than the metro area as we just spoke about, but this is just a kind of like a spot forecast, if you will. Once we get through like noon, we're still looking at snowfall rates as high as 2 centimeters an hour, or maybe a little more at times, which is still impressive, but it's going to be a much lighter snow. The other thing of note is the wind. So the wind in the morning, gusting to 90 from the northeast. Once we get into the afternoon and evening, the winds are going to gust as high as 105 for several hours. And then the winds are going to slack back off once we get through midnight or so tomorrow night. So folks are asking if this is like going to be Snowmageddon. If Snowmageddon had a yardstick that was like, yay big, we're somewhere, halfway, maybe a little more up. But the difference between Snowmageddon and this is this storm is kind of hit its peak before it's moving past us. So it's actually what's called filling as it's moving past us. So it's not an intensifying low at that point, or as intense as it was, where Snowmageddon was intensifying as it went past the Avalon. The wind field is not going to be as strong. The area of high pressure off to the west isn't as deep, isn't as high. So it's going to be a nasty storm, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it's going to be on that level of Snowmageddon. Snowmageddon, at one point, we had, I think, 11 centimeters of snow in an hour. We might get 5 or 6. That's still a lot, but it's not 11. We'll watch it as we go throughout the day tomorrow. So what are we talking about snowfall-wise? Well, I made some slight adjustments to the map, but not crazy adjustments. So we'll start by taking a look in the east, and again, from like Gander, I put you in the 30 to 50 range, by the way, and we'll talk about why in just a minute. Gander back to Conagra, and then further east, we're looking at kind of a widespread 30 to 50 centimeters. Where do I think the highest amounts are going to be? Possibly St. John's area, possibly. But if we're going to get more than 50, if I was going to put money on it, I'd say the Avalon North, so I'd say this area here, and I would also say somewhere around Bonavista Bay, Clarenville, Bonavista Peninsula, and I'm going to stop drawing because I can see where that one's going. So we're going to say, in one big line, I think that this is probably the area that's going to see, if we're going to see 50 plus, it's going to probably be somewhere in here. Could it be over the St. John's area? Sure. My forecast for St. John's is like 46, 47 centimeters is where I think we'll end up. That's where I think. We could be higher than that, right? Like there's always a chance we could be higher. I just don't think that chance is that high. but it certainly is possible. It could be over 50. Some computer guidance says 60. I think we're going to be closer to 50 than 60, but we'll see. The other thing of note is areas down this way, southern Avalon. It's probably actually more on a line like that. Probably going to be closer to 30 than 50 because we're going to see a break here, potentially some freezing rain, some ice pellets. If we get that, obviously it cuts down on the accumulation side of things. Off to the west, again, Gander, you're just in that 30 to 50 range. I think we're closer to 30 than 50. And the reason I think that is sometimes with these areas of low pressure, and I can show you like a computer model image, but essentially sometimes the heaviest snowfall is kind of displaced from the highest, what you would call QPF, or quantitative precipitation forecast. So like you might look at a computer model and it might show 50 millimeters of precipitation over northeastern Newfoundland. So we extrapolate that, and that would be roughly 50 centimeters of snow. However, because snow falls at different ratios depending on temperature, that 50 millimeters of essentially melted liquid could be more than 50 centimeters of snow given the right conditions. It can also be less given the wrong conditions, if you will. So I think the conditions for that are more favorable in this area here than they are further southeast, which is why my thought is like there's a real good chance the Avalon sees the most, but I think the better chance is like somewhere in Bonavista Bay, Bonavista Peninsula sees the most because it's a little cooler. You're in a slightly better position. We're looking at the mid-level dynamics. We'll see. These things are really, really hard to forecast, and I'm just going off a hunch right now. And then we go to the west coast. Corner Brook, you're like 2 to 5. Southwest coast, you're 5 to 15. Burgeo, you're 15 to 30, likely closer to 15 than 30. Buckins, Millertown, kind of flirting with the line. And then on the northern peninsula, the further northwest you go, the lesser snow, the less amount of snow is going to be. And then we take a look at the future wind gusts. And they're going to ramp up significantly again as we go through the day tomorrow. So by tomorrow morning, forecast is gusting 90 in St. John's, 80 in Bonavista, 79 Trepassey. And the wind speeds are only going to ramp up throughout the day. So by midday, forecast is for gusting close to 100 in St. John's, 98 in Bonavista, 50 in Twillingate, 63 in Gander, 71 in Trepassey. As we get to tomorrow evening, forecast for Bonavista is 117. That's a pretty high wind speed, pretty gnarly stuff. And same thing around Bonavista Bay. Like you're all going to be seeing winds probably, somewhere in that realm. St. John's gusting over 100 tomorrow evening, and then we see the winds slack off as we get into tomorrow night. And so that's basically all I have to share with you for the time being. There's a lot going on, a lot happening, but we're just starting to see this thing kind of roll in right now. So I can, I'll run through questions that I'm seeing on Facebook and YouTube. Someone said, don't forget my app. Thank you very much. Don't forget to get the app. Let's see. Tina Fitzgerald. Who's playing Russian roulette again tonight? I think we mean like snow day roulette. If I had a snow day-o-meter, I'd be like 100% for a lot of areas of especially eastern Newfoundland for tomorrow. Stephenville's name is Corner Brook, yes. So folks, I've gotten a lot of questions like, what can the West Coast expect? Cadre Valley, Northern Peninsula. This is not your storm. You're going to see some snow, but the worst of this is going to be in the east, and it's not even like it's by a long shot. It's going to be in the east or northeast. So that's this one. Like you're not going to get nothing. Like just because there's no alert doesn't mean you're not going to get anything, but it's not going to be, as bad as the last couple have been for you. Let's see. Somebody said they're watching from Fart Cove. I don't think that's a real place. How likely will this all be a farce and I have to work tomorrow? It says Jason on YouTube, 4014. Well, if this was a farce, then I'd have to be in on it. Environment Canada would have to be in on it. My weather app would have to be in on it. Literally every other weather app would have to be in on it. So like, it's not a farce. Essentially, if this doesn't happen, we had a really poor showing of the modeling because that's what we base our forecasts on, right? And so everything is pointing toward the forecast looking very much on track. The thing is with these is like, it's ironic because you might think that like smaller stuff is easier to forecast. But when it comes to this type of stuff, like these real big storms, especially the ones that come off the eastern seaboard of the US, are way, way better forecast than the ones that are out in the Atlantic. And so when the ones that are out in the Atlantic, like, I can back up the map here. We can just get into a little bit of like weather geekery, right? There's a lot of data down in this area. There's nothing down here other than like, there's not a lot of data here. So when storms sit here, they're not modeled that well. When storms come out of here, they're modeled real well. And so when we have a big one like this, they're often modeled even better. And so the bigger the storm, like generally the better the forecast is and the more confident you can be in a particular outcome. In this case, that's kind of my thoughts on it all. Let's see. Airport Heights has similar 50 to 60 centimeters to St. John's. Yeah, like we're gonna be in that range. Like it's 50 plus for the Avalon, so we're probably gonna be a scenario where like downtown might be 40 to 45 or 50, maybe somewhere in that range, and then Airport Heights, Paradise, Mount Pearl, maybe even the higher terrain around CBS, is closer to that 50, 60 range. But the other thing is, folks, keep in mind, Little Catalina is 30 to 60, 30 to 50. Keep in mind, right? Like I'm going to make this ugly for a second. Actually, I can't do that. So keep in mind, right? Like when we hear snowfall forecasts, and there are how many people watching? I got 5,200 people watching this, so 5,200 people are about to hear me say this. When we're looking at snowfall forecasts, there's the range, right? 30 to 50. So if this forecast, if St. John's International picks up 30.1 centimeters, or 30 centimeters on the nose, that's a pretty good forecast. If we hit 50, it's a pretty good forecast. It was within the range. If we go 60, well, there's the plus, right? But it's a wide range. So like you hear 30 to 50, you might think 50, but we also could see 30. That's also in the realm of possibilities too. It's not the most likely outcome. The most likely is like 46, 45, 47 for St. John's, for the St. John's area, but it's the range, and it's the range for a reason. Oh, I like this. I'm going to add it to my feed. Will Jeff be able to sell homes tomorrow? Of course. That man can. Snow's not going to stop him. Can you clear my driveway when this is over? Is there a request button in your app? There isn't, but maybe we could do that in a different app. Wait, that's not. Let's see, I want to add this one to broadcast. Where is it? Oh, here we go. Can I do that? Yeah. So maybe I could do a different app where I do that. Sorry. We'll see. How snarly will it be for a drive to work at 1 p.m. in St. John's? Expect cabs to be off the road. Yeah, probably. It's not going to be very nice out tomorrow. Let's see. But the worst can be in the morning. Do I think there's a risk of power outages? I don't. Potentially. I mean, there's always a risk when you're looking at winds that are this high, and the heavy snow, so it's possible. I wouldn't expect like widespread outages, but it certainly is a possibility. Why is it always calm before the storm? Says the Fleming family. Well, let's go. We'll flip over to the right thing this time. And the reason it's calm, I'm trying to control my web browser with my software here. The reason it's calm before a storm is because oftentimes before a storm comes in, we get an area of high pressure that kind of builds out in front of it. And so right now, so you look at these lines here are called isobars, and they are lines of constant pressure. And the tighter packed those lines are, the higher the wind speed is going to be. And so as these lows develop, obviously there's a lot of wind around this, and that's just going to, march its way northward, right? But right now, we're well ahead of that, and look how, we're kind of between systems. We got an area of, weak area of low pressure over Hudson's Bay, another area of low pressure out well southeast of Greenland, south of Iceland. Is Iceland? Iceland? But between them, there's not really much going on, but you can bet that as this thing moves in, we're going to see those winds ramp up in short order as we get into the rest of the evening and the overnight. So something to kind of keep in mind there. Oh man, listen, Paul put up a good thing. I'm not going to put it up here, but Paul on YouTube, thank you for watching. Listen, people are going to say what they're going to say, and if I listen to what people say and the nastiness that some people get on with, like I don't know what I'm talking about, blah blah blah, I would have quit a long time ago. But like I really don't care what those people say. Like if you want to come and be mean, like I honestly feel bad for you, because like why? What's the point? What are you going to accomplish other than looking like an arse in front of 5,000 people that are watching? Because that's essentially what happens. You don't look cool. You might think you're funny. It's not funny. And most people don't find it funny, right? Like that's ultimately the long and short of it. How bad will it be around Gander Bay? It'll be pretty nasty for much of the day. Like it's not going to be nice in Gander tomorrow. So, something to keep in mind. There's that noise again. I don't know what that noise means. Let's see. Could you have on your app where snow plows are active? I can do that, but that would take a lot of cooperation from the government and some developing. So I'm not quite there yet, but maybe. Deer Lake sitting listening out. Not you're gonna get a little bit out in Deer Lake on the West Coast, but yeah, you guys are not in the bullseye for this one for sure. When is the wind going to start? I don't know what that noise is. I really don't. Maybe it's something bad, it seems. Should I take the clothes off the line? Yeah, probably. Let's see. My study group drops everything whenever you post a video. I love to hear that. Do you think we'll have our exam on Tuesday morning? We are big fans. Thank you, Emma. I think there is a very good chance of some kind of delay still Tuesday morning. Because again, if we go back to the future cast here, like I'll step through this pretty quick. Like the snow doesn't fully wrap up in the metro area until like it's late Tuesday night. And so why we see that, it's going to be a to-do to clean up. I think things will be back open Tuesday morning. So kids, I don't know if we're going to get 2 full-on snow days, but I think we're certainly going to have a delay. The other thing I can show you this evening, and I'll pull this up here. Give me a second. This will give you, this is a lot. So the data I'm going to show you is a lot, and I'm going to talk through it. I just want to make sure before I bring it up here that I'm going to show you the right thing. And so when does this run through? Okay, so we're going to start this at start at 12 a.m. And we'll run it through. I'll have it stop at like 6 a.m. and we'll start this at 12 a.m. Sorry, I'm talking to myself right now. This is what I do. And we'll stop this at, if I stop this at 6 a.m. Monday, and that one. All right, let's just see what happens if I do this. All right, so I'm going to pull this graphic up here, and this is showing us, wait, sorry. So hang on. Okay, here we are. All right, so this is going to show you, this is something I want to get in the app eventually. Okay, we don't want to do that. Cannot, I don't know. What's it going to stop at? Okay, it's going to be 12 a.m. going to 12 a.m. And okay, we're going to stop. Okay, hang on. I see the problem here, folks. My apologies. I know I'm talking to myself here, but I'm trying to figure out how to do this, and I'm tired. So I see what I'm doing wrong. Now, let's see what happens if I step through here. Okay, that is going to take us to what I'm trying to accomplish, I think. Okay, so my bad on this one. Let's try this. Okay, so what this graphic is going to show us is the hour by hour. So what we're looking at here is the hour by hour temperature, wind chill, wind, so direction is wind direction, wind speed, WG is wind gust, snow, so this is how much snow we see per hour, okay? And then P, which is essentially the melted precipitation. So if we start to see like zeros here and essentially like precip there, that means it's switched to rain. So there's no rain currently in the forecast. But this is what this is going to show you is a couple things. So this is going to show us like when the snow starts. So 1 a.m. starts light, picks up 4 a.m., 3.6 centimeters in that hour, 5.1 between 4 and 5, under 6 centimeters before 5 and 6, another 5 between 6 and 7, another 3 between 7 and 8. But then we see 2, 1.5, 1.3, 1, 1, 1, 1. So like once we get through the morning, it does lighten up, but as you can see, it just continues. And it continues. Now we're going to step through time here. We'll go to 6 a.m. because that'll take us now 6 a.m. on Tuesday morning. So now down here we're looking at 6 a.m. Tuesday. The snow doesn't stop fully until like 4 or 5 a.m. on Tuesday, which is down here now. So I know this is a lot to take in, and look at the wind speeds. Tomorrow night, gusting 105. It's a lot to take in. I know a lot of data there, but that's that is what we're looking at. And so again, do I think it's looking better? I think there's a good chance of that snow day potentially at least a half, potentially a second one on Tuesday, but maybe not. We'll see. Let's see. No sound. If there's no sound, Trevor, you might want to turn it on because I believe there should be sound. I'm not getting that complaint, and oh no, there's still sound. Okay, so if you're not getting sound on you might want to turn the sound on your browser. How would you compare? Okay, so I'll do this one more, and then I'm gonna call it an evening, and I'll be up literally bright and early tomorrow morning to cover this thing. How would you compare to the forecast? How would you compare this to the forecast of Snowmageddon? Maybe we can change the forecast to something better so we don't have to shovel. Snowmageddon, we had a lot more snow in the forecast. So before Snowmageddon, like when I'm looking at the forecast charts, like the forecast charts this evening are showing bullseyes of like 50 to 60 millimeters or 50 to 60 centimeters of snow. For Snowmageddon, it was showing like 80 to 100 centimeters of snow, and so like double. So it was a lot. What we're seeing is still a lot, but that was a lot. And so I'm not seeing amounts that high in most of the guidance. Is it in the realm of possibilities? Like, sure, and I can actually show you that real quick before I say goodnight, what those possibilities are. Give me a second, because I'll be up early tomorrow morning going over some of this stuff. But before we say goodnight, we'll get a little bit of meteorological geekery. I'll show you two things. So we're going to look at percentile, total snow, and we want to go Tuesday at 8:30 p.m. So I'm going to switch now to this here. So what this is showing you, now mind you, this is in inches, okay? And so this is showing us the European ensemble. So you take a model, you change the initial conditions a bit, and you run that model a lot. That's an ensemble. And then you take all that data and you compile it, and you can see where there's agreement. And so this is basically the 50th percentile of the ensemble. And so for folks who are statisticians, you like math, essentially this is like the most likely scenario, most likely outcome with respect to snow. And so this shows like 17 inches over the Northeast Avalon and much of the Avalon North for that matter. So that's about 45, 46 centimeters A little bit less down around the Placentia area, and same thing around the southeast corner of the Avalon. But again, like Bonavista Peninsula, Burin Peninsula, kind of in that same range. This is the most likely amount. But what you want to look at are the least likely amounts and the high end amounts, or the lowest end amounts and the highest end amounts. Because if they're not far away, there's good agreement. So this is the low end amount, which is about 35, 36 centimeters for St. John's, a little bit less further west and southwest. And then this is the high end. This is the 90th percentile, or like the high end. And that shows just under 60 centimeters for St. John's to 22 inches. So that's why we have that 30 to 50 range, especially when we add in the fact that snow is not going to be super light and fluffy. So this is what I'm thinking, right? And then the other thing we can look at is one more thing. And this stuff is like, it's probabilities. I don't know how well received it would be because I'm not exactly sure how to like communicate it, because when you're talking about probabilities, like you can have 100% chance of like, one amount and a 50% chance of another amount. Let's see, probabilities winter. So we're going to look at probabilities of seeing 6 inches of snow, which is 15 centimeters by Wednesday evening. And so this might be more helpful than not. So where you're seeing that red, that's 100%, 90 to 100%. So this area here, 100% chance we're going to see over 15 centimeters. We go to 30 centimeters. Okay, so this is the chances of seeing more than 30 centimeters, or 30 centimeters, at least 30 centimeters. And so Bonavista Peninsula, Clarenville area, Random Island, much of the Avalon, again, 90 to 100%. What about 45 centimeters, 18 inches? Less chance, but still, for the Northeast Avalon, Avalon North, it's where that green is, it's like 40 to 60%. And then we look at anything over 2 feet and it's 0. So, there's very good agreement that we're going to see a lot of snow. If this was Snowmageddon, that would be, we'd be looking at, potentially between 24 and 36 inches, or 60 to 90 centimeters of snow. But we're not. So it's not Snowmageddon, but it's not going to be, a run-of-the-mill type system either. It's a pretty major one that we're going to see coming in, fairly impactful. So that's where we are this evening. Again, I'll be covering this for you tomorrow morning. I'll be up nice and early. And that's it. Have a very good night. And also, thank you to all the sponsors of this evening's live broadcast, which is Hickman Automotive Group, hickmangroup.ca, NL Kubota Limited. You can find them, NL Kubota Limited, I think. Let me make sure I have the website right. nlkubota.ca and Alphas. And their website is, just so I get it right because I'm tired, balphas.ca. And they sell supplements and lots of fitness stuff. Real cool spot. They have 2 spots, Mount Pearl and Mount Pearl and St. John's. Kubota's got 2 spots, Gander and St. John's. And Hickman Automotive Group, I think, has, I don't want to speak out of turn. I feel like there's 11 stores around, maybe total, but I could be wrong on that. But anyway, hickmanautomovegroup.ca, all sorts of car brands there. Have a very good evening, and I'll have my next update for you early tomorrow morning, and I'll be up bright and early, probably before 5, with storm tracking updates. Have a very, very good evening.
The most trusted name in automotive and proudly supporting Newfoundland and Labrador for 120 years. Choose Hickman for your next gasoline, diesel, or electric vehicle. Family drives everything. NL Kubota has Kubota attachments and Toro snowblowers in stock now. Visit 15 Mills Way in St. John's or 70 Row Avenue in Gander. Alpha Supplements, your local one-stop shop for all things health and fitness, with 2 locations in St. John's and Mount Pearl.